Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of God Built This Podcast. I'm your host Maxine on our episode 122. 122. Like my Asian accent. 122. Canceled! Okay, I have a controversial question to start us off with. This question is going to shake some boots. This question is going to stop you in your tracks. This question is going to make you wonder, should you answer it in public or not? And the question is, to bonnet or not to bonnet? That is the question. To bonnet or not to bonnet? The comedian, the actress, the entertainer, Monique, sent a public service announcement recently announcing that she saw too many young black women, even some young adults, black women out and about at the airport, not only wearing bonnets, but wearing full-on pajamas, wearing slippers, got blankets wrapped around them. And the question is, what the fuck? That's really the top question here. What is the fuck? And what I find very surprising is that she's getting so much backlash for this critique, for this take that she has. And I just think, we live in a time when people can't tell you shit. And there's a good side about that, and there's a negative side about that, right? The negative side about that is that when you are fucking up, when you are presenting yourself lazily, is that a word? When you're presenting yourself with just tackiness, ghetto, you then feel like you could do it. And sure, we live in America. You have the liberty to do what you want. There's consequences, of course. But at the mere bottom of it all, you do have the liberty to do and be as you are. But the reason why I am supporting what Monique is saying here is because she's absolutely correct. She is absolutely correct. Why are we being lazy with our appearance? And then the argument that I've heard is, oh, well, just to the airport. Who cares how you dress, what you wear, what you put on your face, what you put around you when you're about to stay seated for the next however many hours the flight is, or when you're about to, go through the TSA line and you don't feel like dressing up too much because you gotta, undress yourself to go through the TSA line. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. I'm not saying you need to wear full-on makeup, have a beat face on, I'm not saying you gotta go in heels. I think that's a little dramatic for me. But the very least, you could not bring your blanket. The very least, you could not wear your house slippers outside. What are we doing wearing our house clothes outside? That's why it's called house clothes, right? I'm in my house clothes. I'm just chilling. I'm in my house. Like, currently what I'm wearing right now is a t-shirt with a watermelon stain on it. I would never go outside with this. I wouldn't, because this is my house clothes. And not only that, it is stained. Okay? So why would I present myself outside to strangers? Sure, I don't know anyone. You're a stranger. That's fine. But it's just represent yourself with some class. Represent yourself with some pride. Have some oomph in you. I just wasn't raised that way. Being brought up in a Haitian household, my mom, my dad as well, they were very clear on what you're going to wear when you leave the house and what you're not going to wear when you leave the house. There was a certain time when I couldn't wear flats, like just flatted footwear, just flat heels, just flats. I couldn't wear that to church because it was seen as just not appropriate. Not because it was like, sometimes with church etiquette, you can't wear certain clothes because it's revealing. That's not the case with flats. With flat shoes, it just presented this laziness, like you didn't even dress up for God. You didn't even dress up for God? You could wear some heels? I know you're not going to be walking around too much, but dang, you could at least wear, you could wear some heels. So there was a period in time where I could not wear flats to church. We had to present ourselves with class, with some level of pride and care for our appearance. And where is that happening nowadays? Where are the parents? I blame the parents of these young girls, these young black girls walking around with blankets. Why is a blanket going outside with you? Are you a child? And not even that. Are you like a newborn child, a baby? You just came out the womb and a blanket soothes you. No, you're not. You're 16. Oh, you're 22. Oh, and then I saw another explanation or excuse as to why a blanket is okay. Well, the person could have anemia. The person could be anemic. That's why they want to. What? You wear a fleece then. There's fleece you could wear. There are North Faces around that you could wear. There's a jacket. There are coats. Where is this pride that we need to present ourselves as such? I just can't understand this ghetto ass culture that people are so so fervent in upholding. Well, this is the black culture. This is it. You're upholding white supremacy by telling me to not wear my bonnet outside. No, you're not supposed to wear your bonnet outside. This makes no sense to me. It's one thing to preserve your hair, right? Because your hair may be in a particular style that needs to be preserved in order for it to last until the extended time or the specific time that you need it to last, right? Maybe you're going to a wedding. You could still not wear a bonnet on your way to that destination, right? You could put on a turban, make it look cute and fashionable. You could just I think that's the only solution. Put on a turban, put on a hat, but a bonnet, wearing blankets, having house shoes on outside, it is out of bounds. It is inappropriate. Who's to say you don't come across someone who could bring you to the next level, right? Professionally, you could have met your future beau, and you out here with a bonnet. I want to play the video for you all and really just sit with what Monique is saying, because I think she's absolutely correct. I see nothing wrong with what she said. And it is so. It is so.
My sweet babies. So, it took me a minute to say what I'm getting ready to say, because I want to make sure I'm not saying it in judgment. And I want to make sure I'm saying it from a place of love. Y'all, some of y'all have given me the title of auntie. And I'm honored that y'all do that, right? But there are times where auntie gotta talk to her babies and say some real shit. So, yesterday, I was in the airport in Atlanta because I'm in Jackson, Mississippi now at Chuckles Comedy Club, right? And we got 3 shows tonight. We got a matinee at 5:30, then we got 7, then we got 10, right? And I'm excited. I always love going to the stage. So when we got to the airport yesterday, I was excited, like, all right, baby, let's go get him in Jackson, Mississippi. And as we began to walk through the airport, I saw so many, actually too many to count, and too many for me to tap. But I saw so many of our young sisters in head bonnets, scarves, slippers, pajamas, blankets wrapped around them, and this is how they're showing up to the airport. And I've been seeing it, not just at the airport, I've been seeing it at the store, at the mall. I've been seeing sisters showing up with these bonnets and headscarves and their slippers. And the question that I'm having to you, my sweet babies, when did we lose pride in representing ourselves? When did we step away of let me make sure I'm presentable when I leave my home? Let me make sure I'm representing the family I created so that if I'm out in the street, I look like I have pride in myself. And I'm not saying no full face of makeup. I'm not saying no full front lace frontal. I'm not saying none of that. All I'm saying is, could you please comb your hair? And if you don't want to comb your hair, they got enough shit out here now, baby, where you can style yourself up and look like you have pride. I'm not saying you don't have pride, but the representation that you're showing, someone would have to ask you to know that you had it.
There we have it. There we have it. I don't see anything wrong with what she said. I feel like there needs to be some truth told. Not some, all the time, most of the time. You know, we need to become a society where we really are supporting each other and hearing each other and really listening. Listen to your auntie. Listen to Auntie Monique. So I'm seeing a lot of black girls just upset. Like, I'm not checking for Monique. Don't tell me what to do. Blah, 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 blah. And this is why Summer Walker is out here making her baby drink hemp seeds. Okay? This is why Summer Walker is out there with her baby thinning away. This is pretty sad and concerning. I think there is just such a rebellion and defiant nature with the younger generation. I sound old, right? Younger generation, just listen. The younger. I'm not trying to sound like that, but the point is we need to actually adhere or at least listen to our elders and our, respected adults in our life and see, okay, maybe so-and-so has a point. Maybe so-and-so has a point here. I feel like with anything, if you're going to walk into any establishment, no matter how casual the establishment may be to you, you should care about how you are seen and how you may be addressed. That's all I'm saying. This also goes to the parents. Can we talk about the parents who like to pick up their children looking a hot mess? Why are you in a bonnet? What? You're going into a professional establishment. And that's the thing. You want to go into corporate America. You want to go into Wall Street wearing a bonnet. You want to go into these big high tower buildings looking like that. But certain establishments, you lack any type of care or concern for your physical appearance. That includes the school, that includes the airport, of course. There's so many other places that people just don't give a fuck. It's one thing to go to a bodega, right? If you're going to a bodega, baby, you live right up top of it and you gotta go down, get a carton of milk. Sure, you could go down with your house slippers and real quick with the bonnet, maybe. But for a duration of a flight, for the commute to that flight, right? The whole process to get on the flight, the walking to get your ticket, the walking to the kiosk to get your ticket, the scanning of the ticket, the TSA line, the check-in, every part of this is a whole process in which people are seeing you. You are in the public. You are being watched. You are being seen, and you're wearing a blanket, Mickey Mouse, flannel, pajama pants, and you got a big t-shirt on talking about Florida on it. I just want to understand why. If you're going somewhere real quick, like I said, a bodega, then maybe it's okay. But let's just do better. Let's do better. Let's talk about the race card that is a card Many black people play. Let's talk about this. When is the race card used inappropriately, and when is it actually used effectively and appropriately in that time, in that moment, for this specific situation? Now, this conversation is coming about because of an episode I watched of Real Housewives of New York, and a couple experiences I've had at work in which some fellow black folks will pull that race card like it's Pokemon 1999, like it's some type of defense something. And then there are times when it is absolutely relevant, and it absolutely works with what's going on. So Ebony K. Williams is a new housewife on Real Housewives of New York City. She is a black woman. She is a lawyer. She's very educated. She's a beautiful woman. She is an AKA. She got it going on. She was on a show on Revolt TV, this talk show that was initially on an actual TV setup. And when the pandemic happened, it was like a Zoom call type talk show. I tuned in whenever it came on YouTube. I watched the clips. I like her. I enjoy her. She's a very educated woman, but she's not bourgeoisie type of educated. She's very comfortable in her skin, and she's a great person. I like her. I think she's pretty awesome. And yes, she is a black woman, and she is the first black housewife of Real Housewives of New York, which is awesome. But then I thought to myself, like, oh great, here we go with the race push. Niggas are gonna really show their diversity card now. Wow, Bravo is not racist because we have one black housewife finally. And it's great. It is a step forward. I just like for things to be done authentically. So I hope when we are moving into a space where diversity is necessary, is needed, you have to see a black representation, or even an Asian representation, a Hispanic representation. I think that's necessary and is needed in this time that we are in. And I hope it's not just a momentous thing. I hope these diverse characters, these diverse cast members on shows like this could be a continuous thing, and they are supported and not subjected to racism as much as it is expected, right? It's natural being on a reality show and being at the critique of strangers every week, or every time there's a reunion, every time there's a rerun of an episode of a whole series. It is what it is. But for the most part, I want to see the diverse push of these cast members on these reality shows. I want to see them be protected and not just seen as a prop. But anyway, nonetheless, I really enjoy her. I enjoy Ebony on Real Housewives of New York City. I think she is a great fixture. And what I like about her, I feel like she fits in well. And not to say you have to fit in necessarily with the bunch of white women that's already on the show. I just feel like she is the right caliber of black woman. Let me explain, because I feel like that sounds kind of off. Like, what the fuck does that mean? Any black person? Look, there's certain black people, maybe it's not going to work here. Maybe this type of black person is not going to work here. And I think Ebony is not the type of black person. There is, of course, we all like to say, black people are not a monolith. Okay, we know. So with that being said, because black people are not a monolith, this type of black person is the black person that is great on a show like this. You have these housewives who come from, or at least seemingly, because oftentimes they appear as if they come from money, silver spoon, or they are running Fortune 5-9, whatever that is, businesses. And then come to find out they're freaking scammers. They have fraudulent businesses and they're renting their house. So, shout out to Jen Shaw from Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. I just found that out. She is a scammer, a liar, all these things. It's just so what you see on TV is not always obviously what it is. But to say the least, She fits the aesthetic of Real Housewives of New York City. She fits the aesthetic. She fits the caliber of just the lifestyle that is already shown, and she provides a refreshing taste. Like, she doesn't come off as trying to fit in. She doesn't come off as trying to just be someone she's not. She's confident who she, like, I enjoy her. She's great. So there was a scene in the most recent episode, if you listen to this episode on time, there was a scene with Luann, who is a former countess. And Luann is a white woman. She has been a cast member of this show for probably season 2. I think from the very first season. So she's we know the history of Luann. She's been married and divorced twice. She was originally married to a count, literally a count, Count Dracula. No, but a count from, I don't know, England, one of those places where those titles are relevant. And she was called Countess Luann for the earlier seasons on the show. And when we first met her, she was she was definitely bourgeoisie. She was definitely kind of condescending, like, don't talk to me. Oh, call me Countess Luann. Just very annoying. And she's lived in France for a few years. She has children. And that marriage fell apart. I think he cheated or whatever it was, but it fell apart. They grew out of love and they finally got a divorce. So she was finding more of her identity after the demise of that first marriage. And through that, we saw a different Luann. We saw this evolved woman who was finding herself, who was trying to figure herself out. Who am I now that my children are out the house? Who am I now that my husband left me, and this marriage I thought was the identity, the sole identity of who I am, is no longer? Who am I? So she had a real identity crisis, but the beauty of that is it was all shown in real time. It was a beautiful journey that we were watching of Luann de Lesseps. Okay, what is going on? So there's a fire. Anyway, because I hear that in the background, my apologies. So she's growing. She's more evolved in her identity. And you see this facade fade away. You see her adjusting to who she is. She was comfortable with her skin. She was cracking jokes with folks. She was not so protective over this Countess Luann identity that she had for herself initially. She was now very much into just Luann. That's her name, Luann. So she dated a few men. She had just one night niggas around, and she was just very relaxed. And it was nice to see that side of her and just her new evolved version. Okay, cool. So now the scene is at her country house. And she invited all the ladies over. Ebony is amongst them. And Ebony is sitting next to Luann. And a conversation begins when Leah, who's another housewife. Leah is a younger housewife out of all of them. I want to say she's probably 38. She's at her late 30s. She's not that much younger. Well, she is younger than all of them for the most part. She's the youngest, and you could feel her youthfulness throughout the seasons that she's been on. This is her second season, I believe, and I like her. She's great, but I think sometimes she is very childish, and she shows that through her tantrums, her outbursts, her cursing out of Ramona. Now, Ramona, I get it. Ramona could be annoying, but I really like Ramona regardless. I know Ramona has these eyes and she be acting crazy, but I don't know, something about crazy, I understand. So I see her. I see Ramona. I see her. I see Ramona. I see Joe Bud. I see that. We see each other. That's how I am. So, okay, cool. So Leah is very open in talking about dicks. Okay, just like I said it, very open in talking about dicks, very open in talking about sex overall, just sexual experiences and escapades that she's had. And she'll say, yeah, I like the dick when the balls are super big, you know, it's the best type of, like, she just talks like that. She's a white woman. Okay, so I'm just painting this context for you all. Ramona, who's very, and Luann, both of them, they grew up in a Catholicism. They grew up very reserved and conservative, and they never really spoke like that, like Leah. And it's uncomfortable for them to listen to Leah just kind of go on and on very, very rashly about sex. Even though they are much older than Leah, even though they have obviously had sex, they have children, they have been married, they're now divorced, they've experienced life, but certain topics are uncomfortable. And I understand that. You know, when it's funny because I am very open on this podcast. You know, I share my transparency very clearly, and as much as I could. But for the most part, I say a lot. But I think, you know, you have to recognize the environment that you may be in and understand that maybe some people may not be as comfortable with certain topics being shared. And that's okay. I think there's different ways to talk about sex without being too crass. And with Leah, she definitely shows this type of just crass, blunt energy. And honestly, I think she does it to spite Ramona. Her and Ramona have this relationship where it's touch and go. You know, Leah sometimes likes her and sometimes she cusses her out. And Ramona sometimes deserves it, but sometimes Leah just overreacts and it's just being childish and it's annoying. Whatever. There's a breakdown in communication. So Leah has shared another inappropriate sexual story that she is talking about, that she's experienced. And Ramona shares that, you know, I feel uncomfortable when you talk like this. It makes me uncomfortable. Look, I was brought up Catholic, and this is just not something I discuss very openly. And Luann was understanding that and agreeing to that because she was brought up the same way. There was a comment said, Luann said that when you speak like that, when you talk, when you curse like that, or when you curse in general, and when you speak these topics very, very brashly in conversation with folks, it shows a lack of education. It shows a lack of education, and it shows that you are not as much of an educated person as you may be, because you are talking about sex so freely and so just very boldly, and you're cursing out everyone in a split of a second. It shows that you lack education, basically. And that's what Luann was saying. She specifically said, you speaking like that shows you don't have education, shows that you are not educated. And that turned off Ebony. Ebony did not like that comment. It resonated with her because she does not associate one's language, one's vernacular, to their lack of education or their fullness of education. It doesn't have a correlation. It doesn't speak to your education. And I agree with that. And I think there was this breakdown that happened after that point because what's her name? Ebony decided to say, I'm the most educated one out of all of y'all ladies. Okay? Out of all of you guys, I'm the most educated. And that, my friend, stop the track. Let me step back. I've been here a minute. That stopped everything. Luann was pissed. She was annoyed. That triggered something in her. And this is when racism is peeking out, trying to make an appearance. The race card is about to be pulled and slapped onto the blackjack table. Something is about to go down because now the conversation dives into a multitude of things. So Ebony says she's the most educated one out of the group. And when we talk about educated, right? When we talk about educated, we're talking about academically. We're talking about the prestige that is present when you have a degree, when you have an additional degree, when you have an advanced degree, when you go to a particular university, college. That is the educated statement. That is the connotation behind it. We're not talking about street smarts. We're not even talking about culturally. We're talking about the school that you graduated from, the degree that you have, the degrees that you have. That is the root of it all. And by what Ebony is saying and what she shares in her confessional, you know, when cast members, they do their own particular confessionals, it is true. It is true. Ebony is the most educated of all these ladies. She's a lawyer. That's already debunking everything else that these ladies have ever done. She's a whole lawyer. She has a whole law degree. She's a practicing lawyer. And prior to that, she started she went to school at UNC, very prestigious school. She started there at a young age because she graduated high school early, because she passed everything early. She's very smart. She's educated for sure. So let's not deny that. I think the issue is it came off arrogant. And it triggered Luann because it made her feel like, okay, what you trying to say? I'm dumb? You trying to say I'm dumb? Because when people say that, you're going to start thinking you're questioning my intelligence. Oh, because I don't have the degree that you have, because I don't have this line of career that you have, you're saying I'm dumb. And that's where, okay, I can see how Luann felt that way. But then the conversation continues and it turns left and it turns into racism. Racism is at the door. We turned left and there goes racism. So Ebony is explaining herself. She's not yelling. She's not screaming. Sure, she may be raising her voice to another octave because why? Let's explain this. These ladies are talking over each other. So in order for me to get my point across, I may feel like, you know what, I gotta talk over you too, bitch, right? Some people are not gonna wait until you're done talking. No, I'm gonna talk over you, or I'm gonna talk in an aggressive manner that you will have to shut up in order to hear me and listen to what I'm saying. And that's what Ebony was doing. She was explaining herself. Not once did she curse anyone out. Not once did she drop water on somebody and, through glass. She didn't get up. She wasn't being hostile. And in her time of explaining herself, of raising an octave to do so, because all these ladies were talking over her, she was then described as angry. And we know this as, Black women in America. We are given a multitude of stereotypes. And one of them is this angry Black woman trope. This trope of, oh, she's an angry Black woman. She's ghetto. She's angry. She's always yelling, popping at her mouth. Her neck is swerving. She's always looking kind of just angry and mad, and she's never happy and lackadaisical. No. She's an angry bitch, right? And though, of course, you don't say angry, you're an angry Black woman. You don't say that directly to the person, but her even saying the word angry makes it insensitive, to say the least, racially insensitive, because of the history of that trope of angry Black woman. And it was actually just very misjudged. It was inappropriate, because this whole time, not once did Ebony show anger necessarily. She was explaining herself, and maybe she got a little louder than you prefer, but she wasn't cursing you out. She wasn't getting off. She wasn't angry. That's not angry. What was angry was Leah, the white housewife who stormed out of the dinner just a few moments ago because she called every one of the ladies except Ebony, but specifically Luann, Sonia, and Ramona. She called them a hoe. She said, you a hoe, you a hoe, you a hoe. This is a white woman saying this. Okay, a white woman saying this. And what did Luann do in response? She laughed. She smiled at her. She smirked. She laughed. She brushed it off. She tolerated it. And so did Ramona. Even though Ramona's annoyed with Leah, she doesn't really appreciate how Leah is for the most part. But she laughed. And people just laughed it off. But when a Black woman even dares to explain herself at a one level higher octave, it then becomes this, oh my gosh, you're being angry. You're so loud. Can you? And Ramona had the nerve to say, can you turn it down? You're so loud. You stop yelling. Stop. Like, she was like, it was insane. I'm watching the scene unfold, and I'm just so proud of how Ebony handled herself. And it's unfortunate that I even have to say that, because there is a way that you must handle yourself in front of white women, white men also, because you don't want them to say to their peers, to their white fellow peers afterwards, look, I told you, they're all angry, right? I told you they're all angry black women, right? So you don't want them to ever have this one up over you. So there's a level of control that you have to maintain while you are defending yourself, while you have every right. You are fully warranted to speak up and cuss a bitch out. But Leah, the white woman who was overreacting, who was having a temper tantrum, she is free. She is free to curse anyone out, because she does not have to carry this burden of not upholding to this negative stereotype, because she's a white woman. And so Ebony, who is just so gracious, she is so gracious. She knows how to speak. She knows how to explain. She knows how to stand. She's thebomb.com. And for her to be subjected to this behavior, it just rubs me off the wrong way. It just makes me feel for her through the screen, because I wanted to smack a bitch. I wanted to smack these women, but she handled herself very well. And she calls it out in the moment. So when Ramona was saying, you're too loud, can you turn her down? Ebony said, oh, your white fragility is killing me. Your white fragility. And for those of you who may not know what white fragility is there is actually a book titled that, and I don't know if there's an actual definition for it, because people just be making up words. But basically, okay, it's not a definition that I could find, at least. But white fragility is basically when white people are so sensitive to blackness, to just blackness. So if you dare to even stand in your full black identity in the presence of a fellow, of a white woman, then that white person who may be racist will feel uncomfortable, will feel like you need to tone it down, will put you in a box. So there's a sensitivity that they have, or lack of sensitivity that they have, against black people, because they are not comfortable in the idea of black people being black, being who they are. There's this idea or expectation that has a black person in America, you have to code switch, you have to turn it off and turn it on when you're in the presence of white people. And so with white fragility, if you are fragile in your whiteness and you see a black person fully standing in their blackness, oh my gosh, why are you so loud? It strikes as threat. It strikes as a threat. It strikes as intimidation. And it's all very weird. Like, why is this so much for you? Why is my identity just as I am too much for you? Why are you not okay with that? It's ultimately because you're not okay with yourself. It's ultimately because you lack your own strength, because you are fragile. So Ebony called it out, like, your white fragility is killing me. And of course the ladies don't know what the fuck that means, because all these are new terms that, let's just paint the picture, because Ramona, she's a white woman, so that's already, like, she may not be familiar with that, but she's also a woman of a particular age. She's in her early 60s, so she's not very hip to the new word that's going on, the new queer identity that's happening, like all these new words that people like to put in, gender X, Z, 5, 2. She's not gonna know what that is, okay? She's not. So I give her grace for that. But when Ebony called it out, it was this, everyone was just so tired. Not everyone. Sonia actually stood up, and she stood up theoretically and supported and listened to Ebony. So I appreciate that. The one time Sonia is not, look, I'm sorry you guys, I'm going a whole Raw Housewives of New York breakdown, but the reason why I want to talk about this is because the race card is sometimes needed. I think in this very case, the race card is presented successfully and it is supported. I support it, and it's rightfully done. It's rightfully done. Anyway, I'm just go back to this. Okay, so Sonia supported, and this is the one time Sonia is not drunk. Sonia is just a drunkard. Okay, a drunkard. That's who she is. But this time she's not drunk, and she was actually listening, very coherent, and she was on the right side of history, and it was a great moment. But that whole situation just painted the ignorance that is shown on this show, which, look, it is what it is. If you are hanging amongst people who are of the same ethnic group, class, structure, lifestyle as you, and you do not see a diverse bunch of women on a regular, you may continue to just tennis play this archaic and ignorance and racist ideology, and that's just what it is. So as I like to listen to both sides, but even while watching it, and even being as I am, I recognize that Luann was absolutely in the wrong, and she should have thought before saying angry. But when you're in the moment, you want to call people bitches, and you don't realize that maybe that's not okay. But yeah, the race card came into play, and that scene really just it opened a can of worms, and I'm excited to see where it goes next. And like I said, I really love Ebony on the show. I like her already. She's a great addition. So bravo to bravo. Black card, I feel like with the black card, the race card, all of that, there are times when it is used inappropriately. I think about some colleagues I work with. Child, let's get into it. When you're not doing your work and you're getting reprimanded for it, it has nothing to do with you being black. Let's just call it what it is. It has nothing to do with you being black. It has nothing to, there's no vendetta out against you because you're a black woman or a black man. No. It's because you are not doing the tasks that are assigned to you. That is why you are getting the backlash from your fellow employer, from your employer. That is why you're experiencing this. And for me, I work in a predominantly black environment, and I really love it. I really love the environment that I'm working in, and it has its challenges, don't get me wrong, but I think about where I came from professionally to where I am, and to God be the glory. I mean, can we just sit down and give him some praise? To God be the glory. When I started off in education, I was at a charter. I've always been at charter schools. I don't have the experience of working at a public school, so I don't know how much different it is. But in my experiences at a charter school, for the most part, it's the same as far as certain politics are still a game, and by politics, I mean, there is this expectation of you got to pass a student by any means possible. Even if the student didn't do shit, even if the student don't plan on doing shit, figure out how to pass them. I remember one time, it was a previous year, I got an email from one of my deans talking about, I see so-and-so is just 3 points short of passing the semester. Is there any way you get past the kid? And you know what I said? No. Not because I'm a bitch. Not because I'm a hard head and I'm just trying to, shake the table. No, because your child didn't do shit. This student didn't do shit. So no, this is pre-COVID. Let's not do the COVID excuses. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Maybe we won't. But the point is, if you don't do the work, how are you passing? But because of the game that is played at schools, in the school system, because of the politics that we are subjected to play, I'm a freaking politician. You gotta maneuver shit to see, okay, I could put that point here to make them pass with the 70. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I say all this to say, politically, some things are the same, but my experience at a previous charter school makes me so appreciative of where I am right now, because the first charter school that I worked at was predominantly white. And mind you, the kids were predominantly black, black, and there was a good chunk of Hispanic students, but for the most part, it was a black student population. And yet the teachers, the staff members, were a majority of white teachers. So the teachers, the staff, did not reflect the student body. And that plays a factor, unfortunately, but maybe fortunately, maybe I'm on the fence with that. But for the most part, unfortunately, it serves as a deterrent for the success of students in the classroom. If they don't see an example of themselves up at the board, teaching students, delivering lesson plans, then they may lack the motivation, the inspiration to do their best in school and to apply these skills ultimately in their lives. So what I noticed was that in my previous charter school where I worked at, there was a lot of pressure for black teachers, including myself, to inspire the kids, to motivate the kids, and to discipline the kids. We were looked at as the ones to do that job, to burden or to shoulder that burden, in fact. And that's because the white teachers weren't getting the respect. They were laughed at. They were not respected. They were not valued by the students. Yet they still kept on being able to climb the professional social ladder. They were still awarded and promoted in the school, yet the black teachers, many of them, were not seen, were not valued, were not heard, including myself. So when you come from an environment where there is just no fucking care, you are you are tolerated, then you are celebrated. You don't want to work. At least that's how I see it. I understand some people in their workplaces, they just gotta suck it up and do it, which I just don't agree with. Shout out to Naomi Osaka. We'll talk about her. But there is this expectation to just suck it up, just be tolerated, play your part, do your job. But at some point, you feel this drain energy. You want to be celebrated at work. You want to be valued. I'm not saying you have to, expect a parade every time you walk into the doors, but as far as value, what I mean by that, as far as celebrated, what I mean by that is when I walk into my workplace, are my colleagues seeing me? Are the administrators recognizing my presence? Do they value what I'm saying and what I'm contributing into this conversation, into this meeting, into this discussion? Is my opinion looked for? Are you seeking to see what I may say or what I may contribute to this conversation? Or am I just there to just be there, to just check off a box that says, oh, we have about 15% of black female employees here at this workplace? That is not okay. And so that just really shows the toleration the toleration and lack of celebration at that previous workplace. And I don't know how it is right now. I don't give a fuck. But that's how it was for me. That was my experience and many other black teachers' experience at that school. Now, imagine I was in Boston. So maybe that's also the expectation, like, damn girl, you in Boston. So that's why, sure, maybe. But all in all, that was my experience. Now, I'm in Houston. I am here. I'm at a school. I'm at a workplace where I see mad fellow black teachers. No, it couldn't be. It couldn't be. I see not only fellow black teachers, but I see black administrators. They're the ones who are calling the shots for day-to-day scheduling, day-to-day tasks. I'm seeing them at the forefront, and it's many of them. It's not just a one or two. No. It's a plethora of black administrators, black teachers. I felt like home. Like, I felt like, wow, I've arrived. So I remember when I first started working at my current job in November 2018, I was just so in awe. I was walking around, I'm like, oh my God, there goes a black teacher, there goes another black teacher. I was so in awe. I was so grateful. And that was just my immediate experience. And I still feel grateful. I still feel just very appreciative of just where I am now compared to where I've been. So that's very clear, okay? So there's a majority of black teachers at my current workplace, and there's a minority of white teachers. And there are some Hispanic teachers as well, but for the most part, white minority teachers are the whites, okay? Excuse me. So there was a question posed to me not too long ago. And mind you, the principal is another woman of color. So it's very fucking diverse. It's amazing. It's great. And she's great. Like, I love it. I love it. But the issue is some black people, let me speak, not every black, we're not a monolith. I get it. But some black people, let's say every black person, no. Some black people like to inappropriately play the race card when trying to present themselves as this angel, as this innocent person. So I was posed a question not too long ago about, hey, I just wanted to know, I just wanted to sit down with you and talk with you about your experience as an employee here, if you've ever felt like, maybe the leadership team, and this was specifically for a specific person, I'm not gonna say who, but someone of the leadership team, and I was asked whether or not I've ever felt like basically my race, if I was ever experiencing racism by this fellow person who happens to be of the leadership team, So I was asked that question, basically, to say the least. You can't really say that outright, but it was said. Because, when niggas just be talking, but that was a question that was posed to me. Have you ever felt basically racism against, or that you've experienced from this person? And I think to myself, what the fuck? Where are we going with this question? And not only was it asked to me, but it was specifically asked to every black employee here. Every black employee. And I'm wondering, one, what is the motive? What is the goal? Is this done out of spite? Did you have a moment with this person and you felt like, oh, the best way to get back at them is by pulling the race card, is by saying, well, this person is racist. Or, sometimes we live in a day and age where you can't even say outright racism. Like, you can't say this person's a whole racist at the workplace, right? Instead, you'll say this person is racially insensitive. Like, what the fuck does that mean? You racist or not? Which one is it? No, you said a racially insensitive remark. Anyway, so this person was going around asking only black teachers about their experience. And it made me question their motives. Like, why are you doing this? Like, what the hell happened for you to feel like you need to do this? And very, very covertly at that. Like, what? It was weird. But I think about, like, how not only did this happen, but fellow black colleagues coming to me venting and saying, oh, so-and-so is, don't like black people, or is always pinning me out, and I feel like she's racist because she's doing this. And I look at them. Sometimes you gotta step back and look at people outside of the story that they give you, because people like to paint this story, right? And if you're not if you're not intellectually sound, to say the least, if you are not curious, if you are not inquisitive, if you are not just a thinker, you're going to believe people at face value or at story value, and you're going to be fooled. You're going to be fooled because you didn't question, you didn't think to yourself, you didn't have a one-on-one with yourself about what they just said to you. And I had a colleague come up, was venting and saying X, Y, and Z. And I'm thinking like, well, you're not the best employee. Can we just start from there? You're not really great at this job from what I'm seeing, from what I've seen, from the history of what I've seen of you. It has not showed me evidence of strong job. It has not shown me evidence of you doing a great job here. Not a strong job, not a great... No, I've seen plenty of examples in which I could say, yeah, that wasn't so great. You didn't do a good job there. Or, yeah, you got reprimanded because you did this again and again and again and again, and you reacted to someone's critique and feedback with such a negative tone that... Of course, someone's going to have a moment with you and feel like they have to up the ante in reprimanding you. I don't even like that word reprimanding. It sounds racist, honestly. But, in providing a consequence for an action that was not in alignment with your job duty, to say the least. Okay? But reprimand is the shortened version. The point is, we can't be lazy at work. That's really what I'm saying. We can't be lazy at work and then play the race card. We cannot not do our job and then play the race card. Oh, she's about to fire me because she's racist, because she don't like black people. It has literally nothing to do with you being black. Like, if I could extract you from your race, it has solely to do with your lack of work in the workplace. Now, the argument could be, well, what about Susie, who's a white woman, and she does nothing at work, yet she's being praised and valued, and she's being promoted? Here's the thing. That's not the case, though. That's not the case here. And if that is the case in someone else's example, someone else's experience, where you have person A, who's a black person, who's not doing much work, and he or she is getting reprimanded, while you have Susie, who's a white woman, and she's doing the same amount of work as you, and is not being at all respectful to her task, not being at all a great worker, and she's getting praised for that, then yes, that is wrong, and that is an example of racism. But in this case, that's not the case here. And I'm talking specifically about the folks who tend to use racism as a crutch. I'm going to pull this crutch, or I'm going to stand on this crutch in order to maintain the same amount of work ethic that I have while keeping this job, even though I am not showing that I am deserving of this said position because of my lack of care for it. Okay, so all that to say, man, fuck this job. All that to say, shout out to Naomi Osaka. I want to give her a shout out because I think it's very commendable to be only 23 years old and to be at the height that she is right now in her tennis career, and to decide, you know what, I come first. Okay? My mental health comes first. My sanity comes first. All of this comes first, and I'm going to withdraw myself from the French Open. And that is in fact what she did. Prior to her withdrawing, she received ridicule for not speaking to the press when she's contractually expected or mandated to do that. And if she doesn't do that, she is fined. And she was fined $15,000 recently for not speaking to the press and for continuously hopping out of that responsibility. And I think, when we talk about this pressure that all athletes face, and this added pressure that Black and other people of color athletes face. It is such a big step for mental health, for athletes as a whole, and for Black athletes, for Naomi Osaka to stand on her accord and be like, you know what, fuck this job. Fuck this job. I don't need this. Y'all need me. I made my millions. I have my investments. I have the life that I want. I did the career, and she's gonna return. It doesn't seem like she's quitting tennis. It's just that she does not feel the need to continue with this process. She does not feel the need to stay in the French Open because her mental health is declining. And I would rather her withdraw than do anything harmful to herself. So I think instead of her being ridiculed by the press for this and, the backlash that she's getting from a couple of folks, I think she should be praised. She should be recognized as this advocate for mental health, because I'm sure it did not take an easy route for her to decide this. It was not an easy choice for her to decide to withdraw. She worked really hard to get to this point, and for her to drop out, it really shows that she had enough. She had enough, and her mental health was presenting more as a priority than it has before, because it was really declining. And so I respect it. I think this will set the precedence for many workers in any field, whether it's in the limelight or in the backlight. Any field, if you are a worker and you are realizing your level of work, it is completely destroying your mental health, then of course you should take your mental health seriously, and you should take the proper steps to treating it and to making sure you are maintaining not just sanity, because sanity should be the base, right? Like that should be the bare minimum. Like, okay, we all should be sane, okay? But are you happy? Are you at peace? Are you in one accord with yourself, with your body? And if your job, whatever job it is not in alignment and is against the work that you're doing, you should definitely reconsider the line of work, or at least reconsider the level of responsibilities that you have at this said job in order for you to maintain your mental health. We are now moving into a space in society where mental health is discussed more, mental health is valued, and it's not as stigmatized as it once was. People are still growing into conversing about this topic. So I think as big as Naomi Osaka is, as young as she is, this is a great step forward. And I hope that many of us, we're not just looking at this as a great example or just as a separate, isolated story. We could see this and see how it could apply into our life, if it does. I'm not saying, quit, fuck your job, but I am saying at the same time, man, fuck this job. Man, fuck it. Remember when I said, man, fuck this job with my last job? The job that I had when I first moved to Houston. I talked about it, y'all. The first job I had here is the reason why I'm here. And that's, essentially. Because I interviewed for this job, for that previous job. Let's call it But I interviewed for this previous job over the phone while I was in Boston. And the interview went really well. And I'm thinking, okay, you know what? I'm going to fucking go for it. I'm going to go for it. And prior to that, I was already expressing to my parents that I desire to move to Houston and I want to just up and go and create a life for myself here. And it just all fell into play. So when I got a call back after submitting my application for that previous job, I received the immediate phone call that first, the initial conversation went really well, and then we had a phone interview, and then they knew, I already told them that I was in Boston, and I planned to fly out to Houston, and I was going to attend the in-person interview, and they said that they was going to pay for my flight, or if I got the job, they will reimburse me for my flight cost. So all of that, it worked out. As far as I got the job, they reimbursed me. I started my position probably a week later. And I was excited for this new chapter that I am in. I'm already chapters deep into this journey of living here and cultivating this life for myself here in Houston. But it started out this particular job that was incredibly racist. It was a type of racism that was very covert. And what's so interesting to me is that I didn't experience that type of racism. Being from Boston too, people would be shocked in hearing that, like, damn, you from Boston, you experience racism like that? Like, I really didn't, because for the most part, I went to all black everything back home. I went to an all black church. My neighborhood was all black. The high school that I went to, all black. When I went to undergrad in Connecticut, that's a whole different story, but as far as my hometown, it was my black town. And there's this misconception that blackness is not shown in Boston, or that there's no black people in Boston. Au contraire. There's plenty of black, probably too many black people. No. But there's a lot of black people in Boston. A lot of Caribbean people in Boston. A lot of ethnic groups. Boston is very diverse in its own way. Not to say that there isn't a great amount of white people present and living and residents as, in Boston. But let's not act like there is plenty of black people in Boston. Let's be very clear. So I didn't experience racism in Boston at all, really, for the most, from what I could remember, at least. So if I don't remember it, then I clearly didn't experience it, because how could you forget racism? But at the job that I had here, the first job that I had here in Houston, I was not at all feeling it. I was really on some, man, fuck this job. And not even I was really on some. I really said to myself, like, yeah, and to them in different words, of course, but man, fuck this job. I was there for 11 solid weeks, and I was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm fucking done. And as for a plethora of reasons, there was a lot of covert racism that I experienced there. The white woman who was the superintendent, founder of the school, she was always there back to back, and she always questioned everything I did, made me feel like I didn't know shit. And I was, at that point in my life, I was not as evolved and confident in who I am as I am now. So I remember just feeling like, dang, am I not enough? Am I inadequate? So it was a lot of things that ultimately I was getting into a space within myself where I realized, okay, my body is telling me something. And every time I went into work, I remember crying in the morning. I remember this. I remember crying in the morning. And I remember one time I was like so upset just being there, just being at that damn school. And it was a really small school, so you really couldn't like hide in a way. Like there was no separate corners. It was all in one space. It was a really small school, all in one space. Everyone was in your business, and it was just a lot of pressure. I remember one morning, I was just so verklempt, to say the least. I was just feeling like this is not the life I saw for myself at this job. I'm so upset. This is not what I wanted. And I moved here, and I just felt so defeated. I remember calling my mom, and I went to the bathroom, and I was like crying to her, and I was just expressing all of my sadness for this situation, and how I felt like, how every time I said anything, I was ridiculed, I was not valued. And it was all from this white woman who just never fucked with me. And I did my best. I tried. I worked. I explain myself well. I'm articulate. I'm fucking dope, right? But for the most part, I was not valued. I was not seen. I was tolerated, then celebrated. And that was an experience that I had there. And it took me 11, well, honestly, I don't know what point did I realize, yeah, fuck this job. But 11 weeks was enough time for me to say, yeah, fuck this job. And when I said that, I said to myself, yeah, I don't know what the next step is, right? Like, yes, I was applying to other positions at other places. I was definitely putting myself out there, trying to see what else is going on. But I said to myself, by any means, I'm getting the fuck out of this job, because what means more to me is my mental health. And it is my sanity and my peace and my happiness and my joy. And every time I step into this building, all of that is taken away. All of that is just put in the fire, because every time I stepped in there, I was not at all seen, felt, all these things. And what's so interesting is that I didn't expect that necessarily, because when I had the phone call with this woman, I did my research. I knew she was a white woman. I knew she was from Texas and all these, I did my research. So I wasn't too surprised with who she was, essentially, when I saw her in person. But I was surprised in just how it panned out, because over the phone, it seemed like she was accepting of me and how I presented myself and how I am. And I thought it was going to work out, but obviously it didn't. And I remember so anyway, I say all that because I noticed that the two other, again, it's a really small school, the two other employees, the two other teachers there, they are Asian. They are Asian women, and they're two different spectrums of Asians, right? There's the Filipino Asian, that's basically black Asian, and then there's the Chinese, let me stop. I'm gonna have, no, but you know what I mean? There's a more lax, Americanized, full plump lipped Asian, and then there's the super, okay, Buddha is your God, got it, Asian. This is a different type of Asian. And I'm thinking, okay, well, she hired these people, they are, she can't be racist, right? Of course not. It's so foolish. But what's interesting is that Asian people, child, this is a racist ass episode, huh? But let's hear me out. Let's just be very honest here. There's a lot of Asian people who believe with all their heart, with all their might, that they are black. Sorry, no. There's a lot of Asian people who believe with all their heart that they are white. That's what I meant to say. There's a lot of Asian people who believe with all their heart that they are white, that they are akin to the white folk, and they would do their best to just assimilate more into whiteness, more into the white culture, and they would just essentially deny more of who they are culturally, ethnically, in order to fit into white America. So they are more acceptable to the white man, to the white woman. But you see me, a black woman, not only a black woman, a darker hue black woman, not only a darker hue black woman, but a black woman who had, at the time, I had locks then, who had locks, and my hair texture is thick as hell, so even more with locks, and I wasn't getting my roots retwisted every 2 weeks, necessarily. So you see the fullness, the thickness, the afro-ness of my roots. It was a lot of blackness, but I'm not. And I don't want to, people like to say, I'm not trying to remove myself from blackness necessarily. But again, we are not a monolith. So I'm a different example of what maybe a stereotypical black person that a white person may see, right? So I don't have a ghetto vernacular, or at least I don't show that naturally. I show it amongst my folks, right? So anyway, I say all that to say it was a racist ass job. And my body was telling me to go. And at that time, I was getting more spiritual. I was getting more self-actualized. I was getting more in tune with my body. And I was realizing all of the physical reactions I had when it came to this fucking job. So I approached my boss and I said to her, I'm not happy here. I'm not gonna say, man, fuck this job. I said, in so many other words, I'm not happy. In so many other words, I said, man, fuck this job. So I said to her, I'm not happy here. What you promised or what you explained to me as my position here at this job is X, Y, and Z. And she basically fooled me. She said that she wanted a teacher with classroom traditional experiences, yet whenever I would bring that forward into the workplace, she denied every move I wanted to make and I wanted to bring into fruition, because the school is very advanced technologically, and it was before COVID. So this was a time when students were always on the computer. They were not printed assignments or homework per se. Everything was done on the computer, and there was a robot on the computer that taught the students. And I'm just like, well, what the fuck is my purpose then? What am I doing? Because I don't understand why I'm here and you don't want my experience to be shared here. So why am I here? So basically I said all that to her, and I said, I don't appreciate being brought here and being hired into a position in which I don't get to really be my full self. I don't get to share the ideas that I have when you told me that this was what you wanted. And I said all this, and I said all that, and I didn't necessarily have another job lined up. I didn't, have, I had interviews lined up. I went to an interview. I had an interview with another school, and the interview went well, but I didn't get that position or it didn't go well enough, obviously. But it just didn't work out, right? So all that to say, I left. I fucking left, and I left without necessarily a concrete job in line, but I still left because my mental health matters. Now, do I recommend that? I do. I do, because I don't want to live in this space of fear. I don't want to live in a space of worry or of any of that, because look what happened. It all worked out. It all worked out because I remember after the 11 weeks that I spent at that god-awful job, what happened? So after the 11 weeks I spent there, I already was putting an application. I was preparing. I just didn't have anything necessarily set in stone yet. So when I got the first job interview at another place and that didn't pan out, I was a little worried, but I was already leaving that current job. So it was what it was. I'll figure it out. I had some money saved and stashed, so it could hold me down until it doesn't, and I'll figure it out, right? Sometimes we just gotta figure it out, and then it's figured out. To God be the glory. So what's funny is that I remember ending that job, leaving that job, and I said to myself, like, man, I would love a 2-week break before I start my new job. And so I had another interview, which is for the job that I currently have, and went in, did the mock classroom teaching, really excelled, did a great job. Like, it was the vibe was so much better than it was at the previous job interview. And then 2 days later, I got the call, got the job, still have the job. And it was during Thanksgiving break, or Thanksgiving, it was before Thanksgiving break started. And I got the job, and I started after the break. And that was and I had that 2 week off that I said I wanted. And it all worked out. So I say all this to say, man, fuck that job. Okay? Man, fuck that job. Walk away if it is not bringing you peace, if it is not adding to your peace. Now, this doesn't mean that you won't have a job. This doesn't mean that you won't have days at your job that will bring you some challenges and some obstacles. This doesn't mean that you won't experience those moments. This is a part of life. But I say overall, if you are at a position where you are not at all recognized, where you're not at all seen, heard, valued, all of these things, then fuck that job. And at the very least, I want to encourage you all to have enough faith in yourself, in God, and just truly in your abilities, right? Your skills, your talents, your work ethic to move forward, to know that you will figure it out. It will all work out. And I'm here to just really be a testimony to that. So, man, fuck this job, okay? So shout out to Naomi Osaka. That was amazing. Let's get into Ready to Love, some TV breakdown, episode breakdown, and I want to talk about Mayor of Easttown. Okay, let's talk about Mayor of Easttown first, and then we'll wrap up with Ready to Love. So Mayor of Easttown is a phenomenal. It's only 7 episodes, which is like, what the fuck? Like, I'm so sick of this type of TV show rave where we're only watching 3 fucking episodes and that's the end of the series. Bring me a show. Like, can I see another season? There is rumor that there will be a second season, or at least Kate Winslet, who is the main character of Mayor of Easttown. She says she wants a second season, but who knows how well her desires are met and fulfilled. So who knows? But nonetheless, this show is amazing. Again, it's Mayor. The way I'm saying it may sound like Mayor, but it's Mayor. So M-A-R-E. M-A-R-E. Mayor of Easttown. This is a show on HBO Max. And I'm here to tell you to pause, come back after you watch all 7 episodes. Because what I'm going to say right now, I'm not going to go too deep into it because it's just a couple of themes I want to just break down because I think it's so amazing. What I love about writing is it's just like, it's a love language for me. Like, I love niggas who know how to write. And by writing, I'm talking about a plethora of writing. Just writing in text, right? In text messages. If you know how to write and share your heart with me, and you do it without being a nigga. You know how niggas just be just nigger? Like, ugh. Can you fucking spell? Can you spell? I just like writers, okay? But what's amazing about writing and storylines is that when you're writing a story, when you're writing a TV show, a movie, and you find a way to make me, as the viewer, to make me sympathize or even empathize with the bad guy, with the villain, with the predator, right? That is just beautiful to me because, what's amazing about humanity is that we are complex beings. We are not this, one directional person. We have feelings and emotions and thoughts, and most times they contrast with our own thoughts from yesterday and our own actions from last week. We are constantly evolving and growing more into who we are, who we want to be. And then that most times it means being a totally different person than what you were just a month ago or 2 years ago. And that is just the beauty in life and humanity and all of that. Anyway, Mayor of Easttown, it's about a plethora of things, but the main theme or the main conflict in this story is there is a series of deaths and abductions happening in this small town, and Mare, who is the main character played by Kate Winslet, she is the detective in the town. She's famous for her high school years in the town because she won the championship by a popular shot that she did that brought home the win. And so she did all of that, and she grew up to be a detective. And throughout the series, or throughout the season, there is a lot of other things going on. There's this priest who has a wretched history of sexually harassing or even abusing young girls, and he's trying to redeem himself by moving into a new church. And so this is already kind of like, ooh, okay, what the fuck is going on, but then that's a reality, right? Coming from Boston, that was definitely of the norm. A lot of priests did that shit, and it was horrible. So that's one aspect. And then you have Mare, who is a divorced woman, and she has her mother living with her, and her mother supports just the household as far as making sure everything is put together as best as she could. And she has her teenage daughter who's may go off to college, but she has to bear this burden of a surviving child who is the sister of her brother who passed away by suicide. And so suicide is a topic, and you have addiction and mental disorder as a topic. And it goes so many ways. There's so many. It's not confusing. You just have to sit down and watch. And when I watch TV, I really watch with intention. The phone is down. The Twitter account is down. I'm watching with intention, and I'm looking at how well does this develop? How is this story being developed right now? Like, how am I going to be moved by this? How is it going to resonate with me? And afterwards, I get so excited to go on Reddit and find the Reddit page for this show, which I am a member of, and I talk about this episode and the breakdowns and conspiracy theories, and all these things are so amazing. Anyway, I'm not really giving spoilers, so actually you could have continue listening to this part if you didn't watch the season yet. But I say all this to say it's a really great show. It's a really great show. If you do watch it, let me know how you feel about it. It's a really great show. Again, it's called Mayor of Easttown, and it's on HBO Max. Okay, I'm going on and on. Let's just end off with this, with Ready to Love. Okay, Ready to Love breakdown. So my analysis so far: David is batshit crazy. Okay, this nigga is crazy. This nigga is a red flag. And I knew he was a red flag when he started off very victim-like. Okay? I don't like when men are like that. Even some women just like, I don't know why people leave me. I don't know why I'm being left. I don't know why. And mind you, he was married twice, 2 times, and both wives left him. Okay, on their own accord. They couldn't take him anymore. And what's interesting is that he played this part so well of victimhood, as if these wives of his just became a hoe, and they decided to just go on this whole journey, and didn't want to be a wife anymore, didn't want to be a wholesome wife anymore, when in fact they left because your ass is crazy. This man needs help. He needs help. I'm excited to watch the next episode. But he is a walking red flag, and he was able to disguise that by presenting this gentleman-like, I make sure to take care of home, and I care about my wife, I care about the home. I'm a protector. I'm a provider. Like he disguised himself as such, or he disguised his crazy by doing that. And he disguises it by being this believer of God. He grew up in the church, and he has these religious values that he still upholds, which is admirable. But sometimes when that is shown more in a man very upfront, at least for me, it comes off as a possible red flag, because I feel like with super religious guys, if they are, or at least guys who come off initially as super religious, I feel like they're just doing that to show that they're this good guy, to convince you, to make you feel safe, and you can let your guard down, you can commit to me, so that when you do emotionally commit to that person, and eventually physically and all that stuff, oh, I'm gonna show you the crazy and you're never gonna leave because you're already committed emotionally. He scares me, and if I ever see him in public, I'm taking out my Glock. Goodbye. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of God Built This Podcast with your host, Maxine. Be sure to leave a review, give me 5 stars, and of course, subscribe. Also, follow God Built This Podcast on Instagram at God Built This Pod. God bless.